Hey, good afternoon. Scott Luton here with you on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's live stream. On today's very special edition, we're celebrating the first ever National Supply Chain Day here in the U.S. So special day, celebrating a special industry, special people. And we're going to be hearing from supply chain leaders, a lot of them here in Atlanta, but elsewhere, that are all joining in the fight and finding meaningful ways to wage war against COVID-19. A lot of good stories there. So stay tuned for what promises to be a very lively and incredibly informational session. I want to welcome in my fearless co-hosts here today. Of course, Greg White, serial supply chain tech entrepreneur and trusted advisor, but also special co-host, Mary Kate Love, program director for Point A. Mary Kate, Greg, good afternoon. Hey, good to see you both.
Hi.
Hey. Mary Kate, we you were on the show with us with Priya with the American Hospital Association a week or two ago. Got a lot of great feedback around that. Love the 100 million mask challenge.
Right.
And it's great to have you back in a different capacity today.
What is that capacity, Mary Kate? Tell us all.
Well, number one, co-host with you guys, and number two, Greg always embarrasses me, but the founder of National Supply Chain Day, which I'm super, super excited about to be celebrating with you guys.
Yeah, this is an official day. You went through government channels and all of that to make this happen, right?
We've got the official proclamation in Point A's name, which is the perfect entity to really host this day, because as you guys know, we bring together companies like you all, small startups, large companies, and everything in between. And the equalizer is, right, we all have a supply chain.
Absolutely. Touches everything.
Yeah.
All right. So share more. We've kind of dove in already, but share more kind of the genesis and future state. Where are we going from here?
Yeah, so Genesis really was inspired by National Manufacturing Day. Some of you may have been involved in that in the past. It always is October 5th. They started in 2012, and last year they had 300,000 people participate in events across every state. So we are just a few years behind them, and I'm super excited about the impact that's had, really giving manufacturers a unified voice. And I know we're going to do the same with the supply chain.
Absolutely. Hey, real quick, want to say thank you to Pratik, Marty, and Jerry, Karen, who's all dialed in, looks like mainly YouTube and Facebook, and Greg, Professor Mohib out in Wichita. He has joined in, as well as our friend Benjamin Goldklang, who's been a regular part of these live streams here lately and part of the Chick-fil-A team. So great to have each of you for this special edition. Okay, so Mary Kate, a National Manufacturing Day grew, you said 300,000 folks in 8 years. So set the bar for us. What's the number next year? Or give us maybe the 5 year. Throw the gauntlet down. Where should we be?
Well, we've got to get at least a couple thousand, because when you think about supply chain and how many people affects, Greg, how many people are in supply chain again?
44 million, 37% of the workforce in the United States is in supply chain.
So I feel pretty good about.
Sorry, go ahead, Mary Kate.
I feel good about us growing considering that number of people in supply chain.
Well, think about how many people might jump into supply chain now, but they've actually heard of it.
That's right.
And everyone is hearing all about it right now.
Yeah.
That's a great point. All right. So, Greg, we got just a second to talk about the supply chain workforce before we bring in our first two guests. So give us what's going on there.
So, it is a big portion of the workforce, right? And it is frontline people. And I think just a quick thank you, Mary Kate, for putting this together. And I think particularly poignant during this time that we're doing this celebration. It's a rough time. It's been a crisis. Everybody is struggling, and the supply chain is front and center. So I think it's a great opportunity to lift up and celebrate the people on the front line in transportation, in retail, in manufacturing, who are risking their health every day to make sure we stay fed and clothed, and of course have plenty of toilet paper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
We were going to also talk about COVID-19, some of the companies and some of the ways global supply chains really move the needle in that regard. But you know what? Let's just dive right in. Let's bring in our first guest. For the sake of time, we're going to move right along. I want to welcome in Duriya Farooqi, president of Point A, along with Ben Harris, director of supply chain ecosystem with the Metro Atlanta Chamber. Hey, Duriya, Ben,
Hey.
good afternoon.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for having us.
You bet. Absolutely. So, Greg, we're going to talk about some good stuff with Duriya and Ben.
First of all, how do you not fall in love with that transition? Ben, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you coming out as well. But let's start with Duriya. I mean, obviously, we're proud to be one of the newest, I think maybe the newest official members of Point A. So
Second newest. We just signed up someone else today, so sorry, you already got bumped out.
Well, that's okay. We're not the new guys anymore. So that's great. First of all, what Point A is doing is really, really special. We wanted to make sure we were a part of it. There are lots of centers of innovation and that sort of thing out there. But what is great about Point A is we felt like was the trust factor, which we've talked about before, and the action factor, which we've talked about before with Mary Kate. So Duriya, share with us a little bit. You're the boss. So share with us a little bit about Point A and this term you guys use so often, co-innovation.
Yeah, thanks, Greg, for that question. Point A was launched 2 years ago, and our mission is really to bring global companies with startups as well as academic institutions together to really solve problems in supply chains. We know that the opportunity is massive, right? And we're seeing that demonstrated in the impact in our society today with the pandemic and COVID-19. It's impacting everything from masks to ventilators to toilet paper to flour because everybody's baking. And we saw early on that there was an opportunity to really use innovation in a collaborative setting to bring technologies which exist in the world today but just have not been applied in supply chains to really drive optimization in getting a product from whether it's tree to paper itself and making a good impact there. So Point A brings together 40 plus members today. We have big companies like Georgia Pacific, Genuine Parts, UPS, Delta, etc. We have incredible startups in our ecosystem. Varusan, which has been on your show multiple times. Others from the West Coast like Cogniac and Qlik, which you'll hear more about today. And we work with Georgia Tech to really focus on use cases that can unlock a tremendous amount of value in our supply chains. And our model, which is membership-based, built on trust, really is the secret sauce in getting people to collaborate. So we've seen that drive real opportunities and use cases, as well as programs which Mary Kate runs at Point A.
Hey, real quick, a lot of good stuff there, Duriya. Gary Harper is tuned in. Chris Eisel is tuned in as well. They're big fans of Duriya and Mary Kate. And Marty Malone on Twitter says he's breaking his own 5 p.m. wine rule by pouring a glass now to tune into this episode.
Okay, Marty's my friend, and I got to cheers to him. I have my wine ready.
There we go. That's right. We are going to do a little bit of a toast later. So if you're watching, prepare yourself. That's all.
Get yourself ready. Yep.
So, one of the things that we've talked with Mary Kate about, and Duriya, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, is how Point A has contributed to and thought about and worked with what's going on with COVID-19 right now in the supply chain. So can you share a little bit of that with us?
No, absolutely. I think one, we're recognizing that many of our member companies are under stress, and that is changing the way they look at what's important and urgent to act on today. But as an important, as a citizen of this world with some, unique capabilities, we are lending our support to those that are really trying to solve problems and save lives and drive some change in the way we fight this pandemic. So I can give you 3 examples. One, I just got off 30 minutes ago from a call, which was a workforce response roundtable where a lot of companies, everything from the Mercedes-Benz sporting facility to Georgia Pacific, of course, Genuine Parts Company, Accenture, and others. Companies that are thinking about how do they bring these workforces back? What does that look like? How do you secure the workplace and make it safe for employees and for business to continue forward with employees top of mind? So we're bringing together leaders that are driving safety policies, protocols to ensure that our infection rates remain low and companies are acting responsibly and in the best interest of their employees. So that's one effort that we've led to bring our ecosystem and other partners together. Secondly,
oh, go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
yeah. Were you going to say something, Greg?
Oh, I bet you were going to go here, but we just talked with Mary Kate and Priya Patika at the 100 Million Mask Challenge. And that was an incredible discussion. We did a live stream week before last, right, Mary Kate?
Yeah. And Mary Kate and Priya have been spearheading that partnership at Point A. We are basically supporting the American Hospital Association, which, as you can imagine, gets overwhelmed with requests for help that they need. There is a national call that is coming from not just the federal government, but also the Manufacturers Association and Hospital Association saying, please help, right? Because you have companies that are pivoting and flipping their operations to make PPE, but they don't have the resources and the tools that they might need to figure out how do you take a manufacturing facility that made fashion garments and convert that to make approved cloth masks, right, that are deemed as effective by CDC standards, and how do you make gowns and other equipment. So the American Hospital Association reached out to us, and Mary Kate worked with them to help them think about how do you activate innovators and experts that can lend their experience to help companies that actually want to flip their operations and really contribute to the supply chain and the inventory of masks, but need some help in thinking through how to retool their facilities and manufacturing operations. So we partnered with them on the 100 Million Mask Challenge. And similarly, we're working with Project N95, which is a national effort to match suppliers with buyers of masks and PPE equipment. And they have slightly different needs, which is how do you create a marketplace and a platform where it's easy to make connections and provide support on both logistics, but to get beyond what has actually been effective, which is a lot of companies are donating in their communities. But if you want to get masks, which are in excess inventory in one state to another, how do you get visibility into that? And how do you actually make that connection? So Get PPE, as well as Project N95, we're working with both of those companies to lend as much supply chain expertise and innovation expertise as we can to plug the holes that they may not have the ability to do.
That's great.
Those efforts with Point A. And Georgia Pacific has been a huge sponsor and supporter in our efforts to do that.
So I want to flip to Ben really quick, but before we do that, I want to touch on the fact that you're about to open a brand new facility in the ground floor, the first 2 or 3 floors of the GP Center. I've been there, and I recall it's around 40,000 square feet. Is that about right? That's
right. So it's a 40,000 square foot footprint, and we've shared some pictures of what the space looks like. It's going to be ready when our members are ready to come back and work with us and collaborate with us. But at the same time, we are excited about partnership opportunities like the one with Supply Chain Now Radio with both you, Scott, and Greg to co-locate. We're excited to be your host location. And we have other members that are also going to co-locate with us. So if there are companies out there that are looking for a unique co-innovation space to spend more time in as we think about and reimagine what a future may look like, we will be ready, and we will be open when they are ready.
Hey, Greg, we may have a technical difficulty with Ben. Ben, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Scott. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Can you hear Greg? Well, let's drive here. I think Ben had a hard time hearing you. It's the weirdest thing. So Murphy's Law is alive and well. But so Ben, if you can, since our audience can hear you, tell us why Supply Chain City and why is Metro Atlanta such a fertile ground for supporting incredible initiatives that Duriya just walked us through?
Sure, absolutely. No, that's a great question for Duriya. Also, I know she's that factored heavily into their decision, and of course, the reason why she's here in Atlanta. Also, why why we recruited Mary Kate to come down here from Chicago, of course. So, yeah, there's Atlanta's definitely, as Tim Brown at Georgia Tech's ISYE likes to say, it's the Silicon Valley for logistics. And we talk about logistics and supply chain, of course, go hand in hand. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why Atlanta makes a lot of sense. One of those, going back to Georgia Tech, it's the number one industrial and systems engineering program in the world, actually, at the undergraduate and graduate level. So a lot of phenomenal supply chain engineers are graduated out of Georgia Tech here locally, not even to mention Georgia College and State University. What Marty Parker is doing over at UGA is phenomenal work down there. And of course, Georgia Southern's logistics program down there is phenomenal as well. And not even to mention Clayton State University. So definitely on the workforce side, we've done a phenomenal job from a supply chain standpoint. Point A, a major member of the innovation ecosystem here. And they're just one of 17 other corporate innovation centers, actually, that we have here in the Atlanta area, including
Innovation
Delta,
Alley,
Home Depot.
right?
That's right. That's right. Innovation Alley, indeed. And we're also home to 3 of Gartner's top 25 global supply chains are right here in Atlanta. That's tied for first amongst ecosystems. So just some phenomenal things that happen here. And of course, and just the volume of freight that we look at from a physical standpoint, where anywhere, any time and place, if you look at Atlanta, we are a top 3 market when it comes to freight volume in the United States. And that's thanks to some of the data that FreightWaves, who are good friends, of course, of the podcast, that they've shared with us also. So those are a few reasons why, and of course, a big reason why GP, of course, has their global headquarters in Atlanta as well. And that's not even to mention some of the other corporates, whether we mentioned Home Depot and UPS and Delta being some of the other behemoths that are located here in Atlanta.
And my favorite, Chick-fil-A.
Ben, if you can, I don't think you can hear Greg, but Greg mentioned that one of his favorites, Chick-fil-A, of course, which is based in the Metro Atlanta area.
Oh, we can't forget Chick-fil-A, Greg. I hear you, man. Sorry, I'm having audio issues, but yeah, Chick-fil-A is a phenomenal partner and another major supply chain behemoth out there.
Yep.
I would also thank Ben, because he's been such a champion and advocate in terms of amplifying the role of supply chain and why Atlanta is the place for global conversations around supply chain. We have the busiest airport in the world. We're a city that began its history and identity as terminus, a hub for transportation. So it really truly feels like a renaissance for our city to be leading the charge in supply chain and logistics.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So love having you both on, Duriya and Ben. We're going to have a lot more of that. We've really enjoyed the Supply Chain City series here on Supply Chain Now, where we spotlight a lot of these outstanding stories that aren't just impacting the business here in Metro Atlanta, but they're shaping the industry. Yeah. And it's a really special place here. Mary Kate, before we let Duriya and Ben go and welcome in our next guest, 2-minute or
hot take.
The Reader's Diet. Yeah, one quick hot take based on what Duriya and Ben both shared.
You know what? I was just thinking about Duriya. Ben and I all personally have spent most of our careers working with multiple companies at one time. And I think something that we should underscore is the culture in Atlanta with this really propensity to work together with one another, especially as it relates to supply chain, because again, we all have supply chain and we all have unique challenges. So I think the 3 of us have really that commonality of loving working in Atlanta because the companies and people love to work together. So love to see the 3 of us kind of continue to lead the charge on that.
Absolutely. Okay. Right before Duriya and Ben leave, got to give a shout out Paul Noble, who Duriya mentioned, CEO and founder at Verison, very active Point A member, and doing special things out there in the AI space. But
go get him, Paul.
Definitely. Duriya, Ben, thanks so much. Really appreciate the leadership bandwidth and the courage that it takes to do special things and change industry. Because again, it starts here, but it reverberates out throughout the global supply chain. Really appreciate what you both do. So thanks so much for joining us here on National Supply Chain Day.
Thank you, Scott.
Happy-
And we appreciate you getting the word out about National Supply Chain Day to all the supply chain nerds.
That's right.
Thanks for today and every
I
day.
echo
you
Duriya's
guys.
comments. Happy National Supply Chain Day.
That's right. And
National
so
Thanks,
to our-
guys.
Today, man.
Woo.
thanks so much, Duriya and Ben. Great to see you. All right, so we're going to welcome in the next guest here momentarily, but what a great starting point, Greg and Mary Kate, two leaders that get it, that are all about action when it comes to leadership and just special parts of the ecosystem here, right?
Well,
Absolutely.
I mean, I include Mary Kate among those people that we really enjoy working with, and it's great to have you co-host this with us because you've been such a big part of our growth in Atlanta and around the world. So really appreciate it and glad you're joining us. At the same time, I think we all have to confess just a little bit, Mary Kate, maybe that one of the things you love about Atlanta is the winter is not quite so harsh.
That's
oh
right.
my God. I feel like I got away with something by not having a winter this year. Very
That's right.
weird feeling.
Yeah.
But the allergies here, whew,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
an
You pay
adjustment.
for it. We don't get snow, but we do get that same stuff falling from the sky.
That's
You
right.
don't have a polar vortex, but you do have a pollen vortex.
That's right.
Hey, I like that T-shirt. Hey,
Yeah.
real quick, we're not going to be able to get to Pratik's question. He's got a great one here. What we've seen in previous live streams is getting a lot of guidance and answers within the streams and comments. So if anyone can give Pratik some guidance on after he earns his engineering diploma, how can he get trained up and get certifications in the supply chain space? He's on Facebook, so if you're one of the 80 or so folks on Facebook, love for y'all to give him some tips and some resources.
Quick shout out to Mohib, who can probably help him, who's going through the master's program at Wichita State University.
Wow.
Go Shocks.
That's right. Fine institution in the middle of the country.
That's right.
All right, so we're going to welcome in. Hopefully, Murphy's Law is not going to prevent us here. I saw some connections and disconnections, but we're going to welcome in our next two featured guests, Dane Laughlin, innovation engineer, and Zack Steffen, sourcing transformation leader, both with Invista. All right, looks successful. Dane, Zack, how you doing?
They're here.
How are you? Good afternoon.
Great to have you. Great to have you. Hopefully you all have a good week so far.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So two movers and shakers in the supply chain space. For starters, Mary Kate, tell us how Invista and Point A got connected.
Yeah, so we're lucky to both Georgia Pacific and Invista are part of the Coke companies. And so Invista and Georgia Pacific have a great history of working with one another, collaborating on different projects and innovation. So Invista was one of our earliest members at Point A. So I think probably amongst the first 10 or 12 members. So super excited to have you guys on today.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so Dane, give us a tidbit about what Invista does, and then also talk to us about how, they're one of the leaders in the fight against COVID-19.
Yeah, so Invista is a polymer and intermediates company. So we produce anything from the carpet fiber that you see in Stainmaster carpet to airbag fiber that goes in your car. So we have a diverse kind of portfolio as far as the products that we produce. But I think now, especially given the current scenario, innovation is more important than it's ever been. And so some of the technologies that we're focused on right now for addressing some of the challenges that we have, and I think they're probably challenges that are shared broadly amongst other companies, given the current scenario. So we've done a lot of research with remote assist technologies. So everybody is familiar with using FaceTime, with loved ones and Zoom meetings and all that stuff during this time.
Especially now.
Yeah, I think Zoom's doing pretty well. So we're looking for similar types of technologies, but how do we use those in an industrial environment, right? And so given that our business is considered essential, we have to maintain our supply chain and maintain continuity on fewer resources or maybe kind of restricted resources. So. The challenge that we face is that we're a global company, so we have people located all over the world that we need to connect. And so how do we connect those people in ways that are pragmatic for application to our business? And so A good example would be, a good example would be the Mira headset that we're using. And essentially what it allows you to do is, you can call a subject matter expert. They can see what the person wearing the headset can see, and they can walk them through a task or get visual feedback live. So connecting people across the globe.
Well, so there's so much to dive into. We're not going to be able to do it justice in the 15 minutes or so we've got you here. But Zack, elaborate a little bit more based on what Dane has shared, especially specifically around COVID-19 and the good work you're doing there.
Yeah, and Scott, Greg, and Mary Kate, I just wanted to first say thank you guys for having us on today. We're really excited and honored to be part of the first National Supply Chain Day. So this has been great so far, and Dane gave a wonderful background there. We really are trying to embrace some of the new technology that has came out into the field that allows us to function better at our facilities. So I think some of these challenges that we're being faced with, there's a lot of inventive people out there that are always innovating and providing new solutions. And I think we've got a couple of those that we can highlight today for everybody.
It'd be with your role as a transformational sourcing leader, Greg, you and I have chatted a lot about sourcing and procurement, especially in the months ahead. That they've had a newfound seat at the table, right? A newfound important. They've always been important to us, but it seems like businesses are starting to really appreciate those functional areas. And COVID-19 and the whole pandemic environment is they're going to have a lot of say so in the months ahead, right?
No doubt. I've had some really interesting discussions. Of course, the procurement community on LinkedIn is really, really active. And I was fascinated to learn that until fairly recently, they weren't really considered supply chain, which seems fascinating to me. But it's tremendous, what that community does and what, Dane and Zack do. And also, the remote assist, the use of technology and the reshoring of sourcing, which I think we'll all see, maybe not in every industry, but we'll see it. And I saw someone, maybe it was just today, it was in the last couple of days, they're running together. I hope everyone else.
We can all relate.
But in the last couple of days, I saw someone say that a lot of companies will have a China plus one strategy in terms of sourcing. My feeling is that in some industries we will have a source plus China backup because we will reshore a lot of things, and we've talked a lot about how robotics and robotic assistant and all of that sort of thing can play into that as well. So it's really interesting how all this sort of ties together.
Yep. Hey, Mary Kate, be ready. I'm going to come to you in a second and get your take on Invista and how they've been involved and some of the value you see there. But real quick, Gilbert, who is tuned in from South Florida, says, Happy Supply Chain Day. We need this kind of news to encourage others to keep up and move forward. Good stuff there. Adrian says, Dogs, how about the jackets? We're talking supply chain, not football, right? That's good stuff from a few minutes back.
Both have really respectable supply chain schools.
That's right.
Seriously, Georgia Tech does have an incredibly strong program there. And we did get to interview. We haven't gotten to interview any students from Georgia Tech yet. So if you can help us out there.
We interviewed some recent graduates.
Yeah.
Right. That have gone on to do some big things already and just having graduated in the last year or two. But all right, so one last shout out to Tom Valentine. Tom V is tuned in, and for Pratik, he talks about how Lean Core for online it could be a resource there. All right, so and hello, Tom, one of our dear friends, friend of the show. Hey, Mary Kate, let's talk about Invista for a second from a point A standpoint. What have you admired about their hands-on leadership and involvement?
Yeah, so today is a great example of something inside of Coke companies that we call knowledge sharing, which is exactly as it's described, right? The opportunity and the priority to always share as much knowledge as possible for the betterment of yourself, for the betterment of who you're sharing it with, but for the betterment of society. So love to see that Invista is really taking that practice outside of their own company in point A and even outside of point A today. And I think it's so important that we always knowledge share with one another, but especially right now. So thanks, Invista, for doing that.
Great point. And so on that, along those lines, Zack or Dane, one of the really cool things that we've observed in recent days is just how organizations and industry leaders have really gone above and beyond to help connect business leaders with the information they need during these uncertain times. Or of course, we've talked about it, Mary Kate, last time you were here, we've seen automotive manufacturers start figuring out how to make ventilators. We've seen distilleries try to figure out how to, make hand sanitizer. I mean, it really is some uplifting stories out there. But Dane, talk about how, we know a lot of the suffering that's taken place economically and health-wise, but supply chain's been a source of good news, right?
Yeah, no, I think, we've seen a lot of change, and I think, a lot of that change is here to stay for the betterment of, supply chains and companies globally. Another feel-good story for you is Invista. I kind of mentioned that we make fibers. We're now making fibers into gowns for, doctors and nurses to use. So it's pretty cool to see, our supply chain shift as well in order to support the community. Into Mary Kate's point, rising tide lifts all boats, and so we're here to kind of share information and make sure that everybody works safely and productively.
Absolutely. So Zack, you're gonna get the final word, and to our audience members and our listeners, you can find the Invista website hyperlinked in the show notes. But Zack, piggyback on these thoughts about how really global supply chain is going to lead us out of these challenging set of circumstances we're in.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good example of the community really coming together. I know you have a lot of examples that you see of people making face masks and being able to send those to doctor's office and those types of things. It's even affected my wife. She's a dental hygienist. They've got a shortage of medical supplies. We've had companies that we have in our supply chain that we've reached out to that we've been able to help procure them some protective equipment to help keep not just our employees safe, but our community around us. So I do think that there is, everybody is coming together, and it's not even just one nation. We're all coming together globally. It's been a beautiful thing, being able to see people work together across the globe. It's kind of forced us into using some of these new technologies,
right,
for some of us that have been resistant before. So I really think we're going to come out of this on the right side.
Yep, great point. Okay, real quick, Sarah Saxner, +1 to knowledge sharing. It's really important on YouTube. Ben says, don't forget about the Tennessee Volunteers and their supply chain school. That's a good point. Great school there. Let's see here. Jerry Quinn, robust, accurate product data drives supply chain volume and speed. Data. By the way, War Eagle and Roll Tide is what Jerry Quinn says. Good stuff there.
Second. Did he say both?
Yeah, he said both. He said both. And then let's see here.
That's a tough household right there.
That's right. Nita is with us on LinkedIn. She says, happy supply chain day from Item. And then Sandy Lake, of course, talking about leadership, Sandy Lake with the Georgia Center of Innovation for Logistics. Yeah. She says, bravo, great show, and happy supply chain day. So good stuff there.
Sandy Lake is like a matchmaker. That's how Scott and I actually met, was on the Georgia Logistics Summit.
That's true. That's true. That is not fake news. All right. So Dane and Zack, really appreciate your time. Again, it's tough to do justice to the big things you're doing in industry. Love that you're connected to Point A as fellow members now. We're looking forward to networking and really covering what y'all do a lot more in the months to come.
Yeah, Greg, Scott, thanks for having us. And Mary Kate, thank you again for the opportunity.
Yeah,
thanks, Zack.
Y'all take care. Talk soon.
Stay safe.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
All right, we are moving right along, Greg and Mary Kate. So each of y'all, based on what you heard, give me your favorite one thing, 2 sentences or less, that you heard in those first thing so far.
Go.
Favorite.
Okay.
Well, for me, my hat is always Point A. So the idea of a Point A member kind of coming forward, responding to COVID-19 and choosing to share that, and continuing to share that as they grow in their response is just really cool for me to see. So that's my Point A spin on things.
Great. Greg?
That they're already looking through this crisis into the aftermath, as Gartner loves to call it. But that they are solving the problems of today and thinking about the problems to come and already working towards that. And I think it was Zack who said companies are really embracing technology. Please, if you survive this, when you survive this, think about technology. You didn't get through this because of your manual intervention paper and spreadsheets, right?
Yeah.
Uh-oh, did we freeze?
Oh, Scott might be frozen for us
Yeah,
here.
he hasn't moved.
He's shocked at how profound. Oh, he just dropped.
Okay, well, that's
he's
okay.
gone.
We'll take it. Mary Kate, how about, no, just kidding. How about those Blackhawks?
One thing I do have to get up to speed on is you all mention all these Southern schools all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know about all these rivalries between these SEC teams. So we'll need to connect offline. Maybe you should do a special on that.
Well, there's only one thing you need to know, and you should never say both War Eagle and Roll Tide. That's
okay.
the important thing to know.
Writing that down. Writing that one down.
So, so we're next. We've got the folks from Qlik, right? Jesse Cugliotta and Sidney Drill, and Scott is reaching out to me. Hey, let's let everybody see what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, this is how it happens, right?
Yes. Wow. Internet went down. Okay. Talk about hot takes, Mary Kate.
Yeah, seriously.
Clay is still with us, though.
And our Qlik, is Qlik still with us?
Yep. Yeah, we've still got them. So, hey, Clay, you are in front of the scenes.
Hey, everyone. Hey, Greg, I think you're going to have to take the reins on this.
Okay, got it.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah, that's good.
All right.
Hey, we're flying solo and without a net. So here we go. All right. I've always wanted to do this. Mary Kate, we own this thing now. So
we got it. We got it.
Hey, so welcome in to Jesse Cugliotta and Sidney Drill from Qlik. So
thanks for having us.
Start.
Hi.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for joining us. Happy National Supply Chain Day.
Likewise. Same to you.
Seriously.
Did you wake up today wondering whether you ought to go to a parade or have a cookout or go to the beach? I mean, how should we celebrate this?
I think champagne in the morning definitely happened in my day.
There we go.
So,
yeah. Well, we can all pretend that this is water in here if we want to.
Yeah.
For celebration.
We could
fireworks. Let's go with that. We're always riding the razor's edge in supply chain anyway. So, well, we've got Sidney and Jesse here. Mary Kate, you want to start and tell us a little bit about how you connected with the folks at Qlik?
Yeah, so Qlik, like Invista, was also one of our first Point A members. So Qlik works closely with Georgia Pacific. So we've worked closely with you guys, I'm not sure how many years, but in talking to Qlik, just through our Georgia Pacific connection, using their product to drive some transparency for us, we mentioned to them that we were thinking about setting up Point A, and they were one of our first solution providers on board. So at Point A, when we think about our members, we think of them as either problem generators or solution providers. And Qlik is a great example of a solution provider that's coming into Point A to solve problems that are defined in manufacturing. So thanks for joining us, guys.
Great. Thanks again for having us.
Yeah.
Awesome. So is Greg still there? Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Scott is trying to communicate. So I've got the con here. Hold on just a second. So I think we wanted to start, Sidney, with you to tell us a little bit about this amazing system that you've built to help people. Well, I'll let you tell, right? Tell the story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I can introduce.
I think we can put that up on the screen since everybody has already met Clay. We can get that up on the screen and let you show that off to folks. Scott, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Are you back with us fully?
Maybe.
Yeah.
So we've had some storms out here in Walton County. I believe.
Oh, I think the storm just got him.
Yeah.
All right. So Clay, can you put Sidney's? Well, Sidney, you can just share your screen. Go ahead. You should have.
I believe I'm sharing my screen, and I just wanted to add a little bit more kind of adventure to everything by bringing in a little screen sharing as well and a live demo, because when we have technical issues, that is the best way to solve them, is to do things live.
Right.
So I'll go ahead. I'll just introduce Qlik, who we are. and also some of the work that we're doing with some of our partners. And so I'll talk about one of our specific partners that we're working with, Direct Relief, a nonprofit organization, and then hand it off to Jesse, and Jesse can talk about kind of from a greater standpoint what we're doing with a lot of different organizations within supply chain. Yep. So Qlik is a data and analytics tool. And so what we really strive to do is work with our customers as a solution provider for Mary Kate, and allow them to bring disparate data sources together and kind of take that data to find insights wherever that is, whether it's in a dashboard, whether it's in a mobile application, whether it's in an email that you receive on your phone, an alert and triggering. So there are a lot of different ways that our customers work with data. Direct Relief is a nonprofit organization in the supply chain kind of industry. And what they do is they strive to bring medication and equipment to organizations and populations that are vulnerable and that are in emergencies. And right now, unfortunately, the entire world is an emergency. And so as a global organization and as a national organization, what they're striving to do is figure out how to prioritize a limited amount of PPE and medication that they're receiving and purchasing as donations from pharmaceutical companies and, through limited funds that they have. And so they worked with us to share, or to build out this application that I'll show you today. And so, there's so much that we can show you in here, and I'm just going to give you a flyby to show you some of the capabilities. But, what we've done, what you're looking at right now is probably your pretty standard coronavirus dashboard. I think we've all seen 17,000 different flavors of the coronavirus dashboard. It's great. You can drill down. I'm a little bit biased. I think it's the best looking one out there.
Did you actually build this, Sidney, or did somebody help you?
No, this is, so I work in pre-sales. I'm a Qlik technical expert, and I built this with a coworker of mine, Lindsay Turcott. Wow. She's not on here, but the two of us put this together, and, here it is for the world.
Outstanding.
And this was their night and weekend job. They still had to do their day job during the day. So this has become a labor of love for sure.
So I'm somewhat familiar with Qlik. We used it as kind of an adjunct piece in one of my tech companies before, and it is. I'm not to understate your skills, Sidney, but it doesn't take an IT person to put a lot of this together, right? So that to me was one of the most attractive things, because you could be just doing your day job, as Jesse said, and still be able to put together some analytics that you want to use to do your job.
Exactly. And so that's why we've been able to do this and also not only build this out, but as Jesse will speak to, take what we're doing here and give it to other customers. They can leverage the work that we've done so far and easily bring in their own supply chain and their own distribution centers and their own suppliers and run with it. Yep. And so what we've done for Direct Relief is we've taken this coronavirus data that's publicly available, and everything here is publicly available data, and we've put that on top of facilities information. So where are their hospitals? Where are their nursing homes? Where is their urgent care? How many beds do they have? As well as social vulnerability information. Where do we have high percentage of elderly individuals? Where do we have a lot of people with diabetes or heart disease? And overlay all of that information, testing even, with their partners. So what they can do is they can see, well, where do we have partners and what are areas that are high risk and what are areas that are growing fast and who do we need to get in front of? Have we shipped them something recently? Have we shipped them PPE? Are they prepared for what's at stake? And so the next sheet, all this data goes down to a county level. So if I drill into Georgia, for example, because I am getting a little bit of a vibe that Georgia is someplace that we like here. I live in Philadelphia, so I'm a little bit biased.
That's right.
This is new to me. But if we move over to the next sheet, what we've done here is now really taking all these different data sources and putting it into one place. So taking that same view of the coronavirus kind of coloring, where do we have hotbeds? And then now ranking different counties in Georgia or, on a national level to say which are the ones that have the highest concentration of individuals with coronavirus. So not just who has the most known cases, clearly that's New York City, but also who has, what are places that we maybe even haven't thought of that have a high kind of concentration, a high percentage of infection based on their population. And that's where we get some really interesting things. And so we can drill down now to one of these different counties and see specifically in Marion County, Ohio, for example, what facilities are available. So what hospitals, what urgent care, and then what direct relief partners are in that area that they can work with and, ship supplies to. We've also kind of just as a validator included a link here. And it's interesting when you look at some of the different counties that are affected and why that is. And a lot of times these high kind of population zones are ski towns, especially at the beginning of of this whole outbreak, as well as jails and civic centers. We've taken that a couple steps further, and I know I don't have all the time in the world, so I won't go too much deeper. But taking that same view of the information, but looking at more of a risk factors. So, let's pinpoint areas that have high percentage of diabetes or population, and again, do the same analysis to say, here's an area that is likely to be at risk because they have a lot of people who are over 65, which means a lot of people who are probably going to have more severe cases. And let's make sure that those partners in that area are equipped with what they need, that we've shipped them what they need to be ready for the continuation of this outbreak. And then last but not least, kind of taking all of this different data, putting it on, one giant map. So we can look at everything in one place, look at a different state and look at the number of hospital beds that they have in that area. Or, take this even a step further and now say that we're looking at Georgia, or we're looking at a specific county in Georgia, and we want to compare that to another county in Georgia or another state and do a side-by-side comparison of all these different KPIs, whatever those KPIs might be, between these two states, between these two counties, to figure out exactly where we're going. And Direct Relief, we have a blog coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. But Direct Relief has been able to take all of this public data, put it into one place to do the type of analysis that they need to prioritize their response to this outbreak. And so, clearly, I'm a passionate person as is, but I'm very passionate about this application, this project, and so I'm excited that I got to share it with you guys.
Yeah, that's a really valuable project. I can tell you, I think it points to something that we've been discussing I have been discussing for a long time, and we've been discussing recently, and that is that demand is not a reflection necessarily of what happened in the past, but it's a reflection of those influences that create demand. And you're touching on exactly that point by looking at where there are people in high risk brackets, where the testing is being done. Those things will impact the demand for PPE and various other services and products. So that's a great transition into how we need to forecast in the future to be effective, because one of my supply chain rules is that the past is no indication of future performance anymore. So that's one of the things that I think you guys are building a bridge there, in addition to what you're doing. So Jesse, tell us a little bit about how this product is being used or might be used even aside from this emergency situation.
Yeah, well, we're seeing this as a catalyst for a lot of interesting work, including what you just spoke about thinking about how demand is going to change in the future. Earlier on, Duriya talked a lot about how, a lot of the folks that we're working with and they're responsible for keeping the lights on, so to speak, they're under stress, right? They're dealing with reduced workforces, they're dealing with restrictions in various different localities, and of course, volatile demand swinging in one direction or another, depending on what happens there. So what we've realized is that the work that Sidney and Lindsay have done is a great, is really valuable to help people start to figure that out in terms of what that means for their own business. So we've actually looked at organizations outside of direct relief, whether they're manufacturers, healthcare providers, pharma companies, local governments, and they're basically asking, can we use this same data and apply it against our own data set to understand what the impact would be to our particular supply chain, or to our network, or to our healthcare providers that we're working with? And that's exactly what we're doing. And essentially, we're taking all of those data sources, which were public to begin with, and we're providing that as a free analytics starter kit, for lack of a better term, so that they can take that, overlay their own information, get going very quickly without having to figure out, how do I pull together 7 different sources of various levels of granularity with different update frequency? They shouldn't have to worry about that if folks like Sidney have already done the hard work. So that's one of the things that we're actively involved in right now, is to say that this is the right thing to do for our customers, and it will actually have a real impact on their ability to manage the crisis. And I'll give you an example. So we're working with a 3PL where they're very, they were very concerned about their ability to maintain their service levels. And what was interesting is that initially they thought on-time deliveries were going to be impacted. But what the reality was that, once something got on the road, it actually would get there a bit faster than it usually would due to
there's no
traffic, right? Yeah, sure. But they said it was harder to get people to pick up the load. So they were increasingly going to a spot market. They were having to renegotiate with many of the carriers. And one of the things that they thought they'd do to get ahead of that is to say, we need to build out a map that not only looks at the spread of the disease, but to overlay where we first potentially will see pick up or drop off risk, or where folks are starting to embargo zip codes, for example. And they were actually generating alerts in Qlik directly to say that when any new zip code went under embargo, everyone would get an email so that they could go in and check out what the impact would be to their network.
Wow.
So we're starting to see things like that. In other cases, you mentioned the reshoring policies that everybody are considering right now. That's actually been a use case that's come up quite a bit lately, even before this crisis happened, where folks were dealing with very volatile supply situations that have huge weather impacts. So they're actually now starting to understand, geographically speaking, where is my demand going to be concentrated? And then can I compare that with my bill of material to get the dependent demand of the components that drive it, and use that to make a better decision about where the next supplier is going to be?
That's That's great stuff. Mary Kate, I got to hear what you're thinking.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. I can tell you guys are excited about it too, which I feel like a lot of people in supply chain are a little bit of data nerds. Like I think all of us might be when looking at a dashboard like that. But what's kind of striking me is that yes, we're in a global pandemic and it's globally affecting all of us. But the data you all are aggregating and putting in a way really allows for a regional response and approach, which I think is really unique as coronavirus spreads differently through different areas and at different times. And from what we've seen, right, each state has their own, I guess, rules and laws being imposed against it. It's confusing just as a citizen to know if I cross that state line, do I have to wear a mask? Am I allowed to go out? It's confusing just as a human being and an individual. So I can't imagine how complicated that is for business. So, hats off to you guys for allowing for that regional spin to this global pandemic, which is going to continue to change and get more and more important.
Necessity is the mother of invention, right?
For sure. Yeah.
There's a lot of data out there.
I saw a really funny internet meme about what was responsible for the majority of digital transformation in 2020. And it was a pie chart that had the CEO, the CFO, and COVID-19. And of course, COVID-19 was the entire thing.
No joke, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
It's making everyone data driven, whether they want to be or not.
Well, that's right. And I see a lot of potential in what you're doing. I mean, for instance, as Mary Kate was just talking about, for truck drivers, those regulations, like you have to wear a mask, can literally be county by county. And as you've got that data down to that level, you can even help them understand things like that. Whether rest stops are open, all of those possibilities exist, right?
Right.
Where the heck are you getting that data? That's my big question for you. So just give us an idea of some of the data sources that you're using for that.
Yeah, there are a lot of places. A lot of it's coming from Johns Hopkins. A lot of it's coming from the Center for Disease Control. And then they're actually, in the last couple of weeks, and it's been an adventure to kind of monitor this, because every week there's a new data source. Like we didn't have testing on a county level until last week. But there is a coronavirus tracking project. And what they've done is actually done a very good job of finding all of these data sources as well. So between the research we're doing and the research that they're doing, that's kind of become a good hub to find some of the stuff like tracking or, like testing, and also like the social distancing measures and kind of what we're talking about here. Where do you have to wear a mask? And what they've also done that's interesting is tracking, they're grading the data that's coming from different states. So you can see that Georgia maybe has done a great job and they're very reliable when it comes to testing and reporting, whereas Pennsylvania maybe is a B. So they are only reporting once a day as opposed to once an hour, because this data does, we pull it in on an hourly basis.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredibly valuable. Well, hey, I know we got to cut you guys loose. I know you've got to go save the world, and you're off to a great start. So I really appreciate it. Before you go, I want to let everyone know that Scott and Amanda and everyone in the Luton household are safe. They are just without internet, or it's unstable. So yes, the house is stable. The internet is not.
Okay, good.
Yeah, seems like a common theme.
It sounds like our sanity these days.
I was going to say, feels
I just saw somebody, I think Karen Stromble just said, I'm so glad that, what is it? Remember when traffic was really a problem?
I know, I just saw that and I thought about,
I never thought I'd say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of miss traffic, dare I say that, right?
No doubt. Drive on a Saturday afternoon, you won't miss it as much.
True. True.
But anyway, thank you very much, Jesse and Sidney. I appreciate it. And you all have a great afternoon, and keep up the good work, and keep Mary Kate informed on what you're doing, and we'll set it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, everybody.
Proud to have you guys as a Point A member. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
All right, Mary Kate, I gotta say, I love that sweep every time it happens.
I know, it's too cool. I saw
very cool.
The Point A team was all typing to each other. Oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever while we were going.
So Clay, who everybody, first of all, I think that's Clay's first appearance on a live stream. It may be one of his first appearances on the camera. He's done a great job of keeping himself behind the scenes. But Clay invented that thing, and also the backdrop that everyone sees now, so everyone knows who they're talking to as we go through this thing. Mary Kate, look, we've had some great folks. Again, I have to thank you. I am a little bit weirded out myself by how excited I am about National Supply Chain Day, and I want to thank you, first of all, for going through what you did. So maybe share a little bit about that, and then a couple of takes on, from what we've heard from the folks we've talked to today.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you as always. These shows are so fun. And my first debut as a co-host, I'll never forget that Scott left us right in the middle of it. So thanks for keeping me on my toes.
He can't be relied on.
Yeah, right. He just can't. But yeah, National Supply Chain Day, I'm so lucky to have a place like Point A that really encourages us and our members to do whatever it takes to bring a community together. So having the power and being able to explain, really, I just went on National Day Archives, not any heroic type of effort, but I think being able to explain Point A, and Point A being just very different than we think any other innovation center or initiative like it. So being able to explain what Point A is and why we're the perfect organization to really kick off and host National Supply Chain Day, the first ever. We were able to get that through and approved. And then we quickly said, okay, let's do it on our grand opening. That's why I originally applied for this day. It was supposed to be our grand opening, and we were supposed to be having champagne together, but that's okay. So when we said, okay, we're not going to physically get together. We knew that you guys would always be the perfect co-host with us. So we are so, so appreciative of you guys. We could have never pulled off this level of a show and attracted the amount and array of people that I think are tuning in. So, from the Point A team, I again saw all these chats going through. I had to mute it because our team was so excited about stuff. We're so appreciative of this partnership and looking forward to growing together and growing National Supply Chain Day together.
Yeah, thank you very much. Look, we're honored to be a part of Point A. We're honored to be, as anyone can tell, to be a part of the Atlanta supply chain ecosystem. I've started multiple companies in Atlanta in the supply chain tech industry, and I'm just so thankful for the ecosystem in Atlanta and what it's allowed me and other entrepreneurs to do. To Georgia Tech and Georgia Southern and Georgia College and State University and Kennesaw State University, whose data analytics and data science program is top notch in the world. It's a surprising thing, and it's probably surprising to people, but most of all to this great country and the spirit of entrepreneurship in this country, the spirit of adventurism, the spirit of independence that really enables people in all over the world, of course, but particularly in the United States, to do things that you can't do anywhere else. And thanks to you for celebrating that. This is a tough time for everyone, and I think having something to celebrate is really and truly very valuable. And I just appreciate the effort that you went through and the effort that everyone who's has been on the show and is observing the show has brought to supply chain. It's going to change in the aftermath. It's going to change dinner tables, because after this, not nearly as many of our 44 million fellow cohort will need to explain what supply chain is.
Right.
Because people have learned in hard and fast measure exactly what supply chain is and what it's about. And I would just like to, before we thank everyone, and while everyone is still on, I would just like to
yes, I've been waiting for this.
Raise a toast.
I had this ready.
Mary Kate, to you, to Point A, to all of our fellow supply chain members around the country, to Scott Luton, who wouldn't be drinking even if he were on here. But to everyone in the supply chain industry and everything you do for commerce every single day to make people's lives what they are. Take some pride in that, especially today, because tomorrow you're going to have to get your ass back to work. and it's going to be nose to the grindstone once again. So here's to you.
Cheers.
And here's to everyone out there.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So I feel like people probably are more surprised to see you actually drinking on the air than me.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that people think that I am drinking before these shows, which I'm not, by the way. I'm just like this.
Hey, no judgment either way.
That's right. Thank you. Let me cast some thanks out to our special guests, of course, to Scott Luton, who put this entire thing together, this show together, to Mary Kate Love, who is the reason that we are here, to National Supply Chain Days, to Point A for supporting you, Mary Kate, in doing this, and all of us who are trying to improve supply chain. Thanks to everyone in supply chain, as I said before, and particularly thanks to our guests, Duriya Farooqi, president of Point A, Ben Harris, my man, director of supply chain ecosystem at the Metro Atlanta Chamber, Dane Laughlin and Zack Steffen from Invista, Jesse Cugliotta and Sidney Drill from Qlik, and to everyone else out there, to Clay for saving us.
Yeah, thanks, Clay.
In time of crisis. And if this show is not an indication of the resilience of people in the supply chain industry, we got our head cut off and we managed to still make it happen. So thanks to everyone out there for enduring that with us, for sharing your time with us. And let me just do our kind of outtakes thing, or our outro thing, so everybody knows who we are, in case you've forgotten, though Mary Kate has been really special in helping remind our contribution here. And we're happy, by the way, to do it. So be sure to check out all of our industry thought leaderships and shows like this, whether it's a podcast, a live stream, webinars. Check us out at supplychainnowradio.com. Find us anywhere on social media, and I mean anywhere. If you've followed us at all, we are everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, of course. Follow us if you enjoy these live streams. Follow us there or any of those places, or on YouTube. And subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. And on behalf of the entire Supply Chain Now team, Clay and Amanda and Scott and Vicky and Mary Kate Love and me, thank you for joining with us. Stay safe, stay sane, stay happy, and look forward, because if you're going through hell, keep on going.
Love it.
And just remember that brighter days, as my good friend Scott Luton always says, brighter days lie ahead. With that in mind, we'll see you the next time on Supply Chain Now. And I'm going to try and say it just like Scott does. Thank you, everybody.